Hello everyone, Bashar here. So I have been putting this video off for some time. I don't know why. So you might remember I did a classic OG Quill Wallace Spiritborn build, and that was way too weak, right? And I am thinking about maybe doing the new Poison Thorns one. That is the strongest build in the game. But anyway, so I did not appreciate having to have a minute long fight against Torment for bosses, so I wanted to do something stronger. And the Hydra Sorcerer seemed like a good idea at the time. And after the first character, it's not that bad anymore. You have gems lying around, you have at least the commonly shared aspects around, you have the again commonly shared augments around and whatnot. So I went for a Hydra Sorcerer, and I again went by my no trade agreement. I mean, I just didn't trade for the entirety of the season. And yeah, I am thinking about doing a video about that one. It wasn't a good idea. Yeah, I was going to actually talk about that. So yeah, I think it's a bit of a must, right? I mean, I was able to get the build going and arrived at a decent place, but yeah, a little bit of trading would have made a huge difference. So anyway, again, I'm getting sidetracked. So what's this about, right? So there is a new amulet added to the game with this season 9, right? And it's called the Ophidian Iris, and that enabled the Hydra builds. And there were also some aspects of it, I think. So let's go over the gear, right? And I also tell you what you should get instead of, I mean, what you can get that's better. So we want a Shaco, right? Harlequin crest as a helmet, and we want the great graphics to be on the cooldown reduction, and we also want all of the masterworking in the cooldown reduction. In that case, you can get a whopping 54% cooldown reduction from a single item. This, yeah. So you could go for a regular helmet with snow veiled on it if you don't have this. But yeah, ultimately it is going to get needed, right? So with this character, I think if I improve it a little bit more, right, I can do like 100 pit, right? At this point, I can do like, I mean, I'm not gonna say I can't do 100 because I have never tried, but at 90s it starts getting a little bit nasty. So 100 is maybe doable. I could reroll a few masteries and whatnot, but as it is, 100 is a challenge, right? I can do 90s, but 100 is a challenge. For the chest, this is a classic. Almost everyone is wearing this, right? You want a shroud. The +1 all passives nets a lot of damage, right? It's very useful. All stats max life. All stats is very useful. Is triggering for all of the secondary bonuses we have in the later Paragon boards, because they will require a high amount of willpower, high amount of dexterity, intelligence, strength, whatever it is, right? And also, they also provide some sort of benefits. So Shadowfall stat is beautiful. You could just use a regular chest in the worst case. Let me try to remember what I think we were using. Concentration is a good one, I think, for the damage reduction when you cast a conjuration skill. And Hydra is a conjuration skill. So the good thing about this is Hydra does not have a cooldown. You can just refresh it whenever you like. But we'll get to that. Let's get to that part. For the gloves, we want flash fire at the end, and we want core skills, attack speed, and intelligence on it instead of the life. So mine is not very ideal, and as you can see, it's an ancestral one, but I had to roll away from the great graphics one. So what you want is the great graphics to be on the core skills, right? and you also want attack speed and intelligence. We want barrier generation and Hydra damage because we will use our abilities, cooldown abilities, the Ice Armor and Ice Blades, and they will give us some sort of shield barrier, right? And we want that barrier to be bigger. And as you can see, we are using a very abnormal amount of uniques, so we have very little room for aspects. We have only room for 3 aspects, right? And that also prevents us from using tamperings as well. Normally, guys, you go for like 3 uniques or so, maybe, including the mythic ones for regular builds, right? This build uses 6. It's insanely high. We use Axial Conduit, and the funny thing is, we do not use Axial Conduit for its bonus. As you can see, this build is a Hydra build. We have nothing to do with Chain Lightning, but the resource generation and maximum affix is extremely powerful for us, and the damage reduction also helps. The other affixes don't really mean anything whatsoever for us here. We want the greater affix to be on the resource generation and maximum, right? Because you'll see why. We will have something that will drain all of our mana when we cast Hydra to improve its damage. So that's why we want a lot of mana, and we also want to regenerate a lot of mana because we kind of don't want to do Hydra without having full mana because that loses us damage. So there is no actual penalty, but you know, when you do it with full mana, it will deal more damage. So we generally want to do it that way. A second greater affix could be on the damage reduction, but of course, resource generation is the most important one. Nothing else matters. That was a pun, I guess. And you wanna masterwork the resource generation part. As you can see, mine is a little bit lousy. But these are all okay, right? So I did these, and as soon as they were acceptable, I stopped because, you know, no trade also makes gold an issue, as you can see. And this is very rich, right? I was sitting on like 150 to 200 million at all times. And this is funny because, you know, the runes that you have to get for getting the mythics in a targeted way, the legendaries cost about 500 million each, right? I can buy 1 buck rune, for example, right now. So how do I have all of these? Well, it's a little bit of a luck, right? So I did farm the bosses quite a bit. You know, whatever I found, I farmed. I did get some bad mythics. I salvaged them, and I used the blacksmith recipe for crafting a random mythic. I got Ring of Starless Skies that way, and these just dropped, right? Huge luck. But, you know, if you are going to trade and spend, of course, you want the greater affix to be on the cooldown reduction on the Shaco, and on all stats on the Shroud of False Death, I would say. Okay, finally we have some boots. On the boots we will have Orange Herald that will reduce our ultimate cooldown because we want to use Inferno as frequently as you can. We want Intelligence, Armor, and Life. Why do we not want Movement Speed? Because the thing is, we will have a lot of conjurations active, right? And those conjurations will give us a lot of movement speed, so we do not want movement speed on the boots. We want evade cooldown reduction because we will be using Masterwork the enchantment for teleport, so our evade will actually be converted into teleport, and that also gives us some movement speed. The movement speed is covered, right? It's very interesting. We have 0 movement speed all over, but the character will be fast on her feet, you'll see. And also about the gems will be topaz, right? Obviously, and for the rune words we will have Neozek. That will we will avoid health damage thanks to having a nice big barrier, and that will keep reducing our cooldown on the Inferno. We want to cast Inferno as frequent as we can because it will give us 50% more damage and it will render enemies vulnerable. So evade cooldown reduction and barrier generation on the thing, and we would want the greater affix to be on the intelligence, I guess. As you can see, I have one masterworking bonus on the armor, and I have barely enough armor, so you will probably need that as well. The old resistance kind of covers itself because we have so high intelligence, right? We have the implicits from the amulets and the rings, and we will have the heraldic jewels inside, so that we end up somewhere like at 50 resistance or so. So you need to get only like 25 of resist from your Paragon, which is very easily achieved. And I will advise you to constantly check your resistances, because imagine you cap your resistances, then you level up quite a bit, right? And you will get more intelligence. Maybe you upgrade your gems, and then you might have overshot, right? Which just happened to me, right? I took a look at my resistances, and they were all about 3.5% or so above cap, right? The worst ones. So that means I could take off 2 points from my Paragon tree, the 1.5% all resist ones, and so that frees up 2 points. So have a care about that one. So this is the reason that we want to cast Hydra with a full mana pool. As you can see, it drains all of our mana, and they deal 2.8% more damage per mana drain, right? Which means we kind of want to cast it with full mana. We temper Hydra damage, and casted Hydras have additional heads. So this deals damage, but also you'll see the amulet now. The amulet will take away our extra heads, but it will yield us damage in return, which will yield more damage. So we will use the Serpentine aspect, intelligence, life, and vulnerable damage. This is probably my best item, right? Also almost perfectly masterworked. What we want is, obviously, we want the heads to have triple masterworking, right? We want the heads to have triple master. So the temper does 2 to 4 heads. We want the 4 heads there, and then we want a triple masterwork that 4 heads. Yeah, so that's about it. So this is one of the things that my dedication to no trade hurts me. Sadly, my rune word is wrong. You have to use Nagu-ke here instead of Pokke, because Nagu gives you offering for having summons, and you have Hydras and Spirit Wolves all the time, so that gives you an insane amount of offering, and so you have a lot of Spirit Wolf companions at all times, which allows you to benefit from this beautiful passive, Primordial Binding. So Primordial Binding is always capped with that one. With this one, it's conditional, but yeah, I'm not going to breach that. But you want Nagu in here. This is one of the things that the build is lacking. So the items are good, right? Mostly they are okay, but the greater FX is in the wrong one. The masterworking is not perfect, and that can take you. I mean, the best Hydra sorcerers in the world, I think, are somewhere like 115s or so. Maybe the build can see 120 ultimately, but that's about it. And that is the second strongest build in the game these days. There is the Poison Thorn Spiritborn that goes 130s and whatnot. It's insanely powerful. And the second strongest one is this one, and this is also enjoyable to play. I like it. Then we have Ophidian Iris. This is the reason that we want so many heads. Intelligence, attack speed, pyromancy damage, and primordial binding. We want the greater FX to be on the primordial binding. And so with this item, the unique effect is the most important thing, right? Because as you can see, it gives us 50 to 100% damage, and that is a lot of difference, right? This is a multiplicative sort of damage. So this will mean more than 30% damage if you have the unique power to be on the weaker side, right? If it's around the 50% side, it will be much weaker. So I have a 95% one. I actually have a better one than this, but I'm a little bit lazy. Let me show it to you. I think, is it here? No, that's not the one. That's garbage. That's pretty good, but that's non-ancestral. Okay, that's the better one I have. But still, of course, the greater affix sadly stinks. We want the greater affix to be on the primordial binding, because the primordial binding is the one that gives us more summon damage, movement speed, and mana regen. And imagine that, guys, 10 stacks, so 160% movement speed. And my primordial binding is low. It can go all the way up to like 7 or 8, I think. I mean, if it has a greater affix and if it's triple masterwork, it goes crazy. I think it goes like 8. That's the perfect one. And of course, guys, if you can get like 4 greater affix, by all means. But I'm talking about the budget stuff. If you are going to get an ancestor of Hidden Iris, the preference should be on the unique power first, and then to get that greater affix on the primordial binding. If not primordial binding, then you want intelligence, then you want attack speed, and finally you want pyromancy damage. That's the weakest because that's additive damage and it doesn't add that much damage. And when I say additive, guys, all of the additive ones are being added up, and then the multiplicative ones get multiplied on top of that. So for example, guys, vulnerable damage, pyromancy damage, all power damage, critical damage, these are all additive. Unless it specifically has X in square brackets like the last line, right? So your unique powers last line has an X here, as you can see, right? Yeah, I mean, you see that 95%. That means multiple, right? So that means literal 95% damage up, right? But when it's additive, it just adds. For example, pyromancy is additive, as you can see. Then we have Talrasha ring. Again, the most important thing is the unique power here, because it can give you a multiplicative 75% damage up, and it will. As you can see, mine is okay. Sadly, my unique power, my greater affix is on the wrong one again. You actually want it on the cooldown reduction, because the more cooldown reduction you have, the more frequently you can use your ice armor and ice blades and inferno. Of course, also helps with teleport, but at this point, my teleport is pretty fine. I forgot to mention this. You want the attacks reduce evades cooldown by 1.5 seconds implicit on the boots if you can. It's not the end of the world, but it does help. Why? Because thanks to the teleport enchantment, our evade is converted into teleport, and it helps a lot with the mobility, right? I mean, normally it doesn't mean that much, but for this sorcerer, it does mean a lot. And this season stable, Ring of Starlit Skies is our last item. We want the greater affix to be on the core skills, and we want to triple masterwork the core skills. As you can see, this one is sadly garbage. And when it comes to Horadic Jewels, what we want is we want the... Can I see the name here? I can't. Okay, let's just take a look at the names. There is one that's related to summons, and the other two are kind of classic, right? The Spirit one was also making use of them. 6% core stat, that's beautiful. Oops, not that one. Okay, that's not it. So Idol from Below is one of those, right? Yes, Idol from Below is one of those. Yeah, Reverie here, Horn is another, right? This is the summons one. So this gives us 50% more damage. It's beautiful. Injure or kill an enemy. Doesn't work against bosses, but I mean, it does work against bosses at the end, but during the course of the pit, it always works, of course. And this is the last one, I think. Yes, Scornful Light. This is a 20% damage up at the cost of 10% more damage taken. And so guys, you can handle survivability one way or the other, but you can't really handle damage, right? So whatever source of damage that you can get is good. So that's why we want this. Scornful Light, Reverie Horn, and Idols from Below are Horadic Jewels. Skill tree, I will refer you to the max roll guide again, but yeah, I mean, we start off some wasted points. As you know, you have to use 2 points in here. Then we go for, again, some points. We want Devastation. Why? Because Devastation gives us max mana, and that mana gets drained with Serpentine Aspect and is converted to damage. And we have to spend points here again. Then we max out Teleport so we can move faster. For 30%, this is permanent 30% damage reduction because we will be teleporting more frequently than once every 4 seconds. We have a lot of cooldown reduction, right? So 4.41 seconds. Yeah, I mean, kind of there. We have Ice Armor. This is pretty good. We chill and whatnot. We use Glass Cannon, it's a classic. We have Ice Blades. Ice Blades gives us, I think, vulnerable. Yeah, Ice Blades is our source of vulnerable. We max out Hydra. We go for Invoked Hydra. We go for Familiar. And as you can see, Familiar is not on our bars. This is the, we are using this Familiar because of the enchant, right? We will be using the Familiar enchantment, and we will be summoning Familiars without actually having Familiar on our bars. So that will give us an additional 10% damage. We go for Mana Shield, nice damage reduction, because every single Hydra will drain our mana entirely. So every time we cast Hydra, we will have a 40%, which means we will have a 40% damage reduction because we will be casting Hydra more frequently than once every 5 seconds. Primordial Binding, yeah, I mean, insane, right? That's why we want to triple masterwork it on the amulet as well. We have aligned the elements, we have protection. This does help, right? Because we have a lot of additional barrier generation, so this barrier will actually be bigger. So this is our main survival mechanism, by the way. This protection is. Then we have Inner Flames and Devouring Blaze. So instead of calling them Fire, Frost, and Lightning, they call it Shock, I think. Yeah, Shock, Pyromancy, and Frost, right? I mean, that's just the names. We have these passives here. We have Inferno. Inferno will make us deal 50% more damage. So that's why we go so hard at cooldown reduction, because Inferno gives us 50% more damage, right? And we have Essus Ferocity as our keystone passive. I mean, gives us a lot of damage, increased crit chance, increased crit strike damage, right? And for the Paragon, right? What's this? Oh, we have Pyromaniac, we have Tactician, we have Conjurer, we have Destruction, and we have Elementalist. Again, I will refer you to the max roll guide for the Paragon 3. So mine is not exactly the same, it's similar. You go for, you know, armor and resistance nodes to cap your stuff, right? Those have to be capped because they make a huge difference in survivability. And that's the general shape of it. You go for your glyph sockets at first, and you also go for your legendary nodes, and then slowly you try to cap your stuff, and then you can go for, you know, additional damage modifiers. So let me show you how it plays. Oops, where is it? I'm a cheap ass. The game gave me those weak elixirs, and I can't throw them away, so I'm just okay. And as you can see, guys, my glyphs are not maxed out. That's also gonna help, right? I mean, I can change my masterworking, so I can do about 100 as it is, but you know, that 115, etc., that sort of stuff, everything has to be ship shape. Okay, so one thing is important, guys, as you can guess, right, with the Hydra build, our damage will be, you know, a little bit RNG based, because, you know, where the Hydra spit, you know, I can't decide that. And the thing is, that can make the damage resistance or a problem. I didn't talk about one of the important things, did I? Yeah, the Heraldic Spellcraft. That is actually our method of managing the damage resistance aura. Okay, I'll get to that. It's just this. So as you can see, there's damage resistance aura, and as you probably guess, my Heraldic Spellcraft actually cancels that, because otherwise it's a problem, right? I mean, imagine your Hydras keep spitting at the guys without the damage resistance aura, and then it takes you a million years to kill them. Yeah. And you can have 2 Hydras at one time, right? Keep that in mind. So you can throw one Hydra here, one Hydra there, and try to not. Sometimes you can actually misclick. It does happen to me pretty frequently. If you refresh your Hydra with, you know, a low amount of mana, that will mean that you will actually miss out on a lot of damage. Have to be careful. Refresh your Hydras when you have full mana only, to not let your Ring of Starless Skies stacks off, and not Ring of Primordial Binding stacks off. But yeah, I mean, it does happen from time to time. I think I just actually refreshed it a little bit prematurely. So this is a little bit ill-timed, right? I did get the chronological order wrong, but the thing is, as I said, in order to handle the damage resistance aura, we use the Arcana that cancels the damage reduction auras, right? What you have to do is, we are using Disintegrate here. I will get to it in a moment, but you have to touch them with the Disintegrate in order to cancel, right? That's the trick. Yeah, I did one Hydra 2 May again. Whoa! How did I take that damage? That's weird. Okay. So as you can see, at low 80s, it has started to slow down a little bit for me, but not too much. It will not take 5 minutes for me, but as long as it doesn't take like 2 minutes, that means you have started slowing down. As you can see, I just cancelled it. So my Horadic Spellcraft is tied to my Hydra, and once every 5 seconds I can summon the Disintegrating Ray, and when I touch the enemy with the Ray, it cancels their damage reduction aura. There's a catalyst that specifically does that. Oops. For builds such as ours. Spiritborn also does suffer a little bit from this, at least the one I showed you, the Quill Volley, because your damage is not very much focused, so it can cause a problem. Okay, let's go. One. I'm waiting for my mana. Yeah, I mean 4 minutes or so, I think. So the reason we want to refresh our Hydra is we want to keep our Prime Order Binding stacks alive, and also our Ring of Starless Skies, right? That is a lot of damage. Yeah. I mean 3 minutes 90 seconds, I think. I mean 50. But how about I mean 90 seconds. 3 minutes 50 seconds. Therefore 83. And at 90, I think it goes like 6-7 minutes. I think I will be able to do 95, like 11-12 minutes maybe. Yeah, I mean at this point 100 is, I mean I will be able to pull it off maybe barely, or I will maybe fail barely. But thing is, of course, these glyphs are actually making us get stronger. So I think if I really tried and got my glyphs to max, I could handle about 100 at this point. But then I really need to get a little bit more serious. I need to get that Nagu, for example. That makes a difference, because when you get Nagu, basically you will have max primordial stacks, primordial binding stacks at all times. Then I also have to go for somewhat better items, and I also have to masterwork them better, right? So for example, this item is actually pretty end game, right? The only item that's better than this is the one that has a greater effects on the vulnerable damage as well. So I should reset the masterworking of this item continuously to get triple masterworking on the Hydras have heads, right? But thing is, that's also mighty expensive gold wise and obusite wise. Why? Because I reset 5 million gold, by the way, and also there is some gold cost for masterworking, right? There is a 20% chance that I hit the casted Hydras have heads affix the first time around. Then I go for 8, then I have another 20% chance of getting there. And then at 12, I have another 20% of getting there. And you combine those, you get 0.8%, right? That's a problem. So I have to do it 125 times on average to get there. So the good thing is, the level 4 is basically free obsite-wise. It's very cheap, but there is always the gold cost of resetting for 5 million. 8 takes away some of the site, but when you miss at the 12th one, it is rather painful, because you spend like 5,000 or so of the site and millions and millions of gold, so you have to go all over again. And I'm not going that hard this season, so this is, I would say, acceptable. But that item is worth going hard at, right? And none of the other items have, for example, guys, my Shaco has the great master working on the wrong thing. But without trading, guys, I mean I should count myself lucky to actually have obtained the right mythic items, right? Because when you are solo playing, you cannot get 6 legendary runes of one kind to craft the targeted mythical item. So it has to drop for you, or you have to craft it randomly for 50 million gold and 2 resplendent sparks. That can be done at the blacksmith if you didn't know. But that's about it. So let me go into the horadic spellcraft. We use disintegrate with the smoldering amber catalyst to break away walls as the infusion, and we use the catalyst. We can execute, right? 20% for elites and 40% for non-elites, which is pretty good, right? You just walk through them to execute them. This one deactivates our catalyst allows. So guys, I cast the Hydra, right? Then the thing pops up, the arcane conductor pops up, and between the arcane conductor and I, there is a beam, right? That beam touches someone, and that beam executes them, and that beam also dispels away their damage resistant aura. But the cost is we take 15% more damage, and for this also goes for every single one that we dispel. But generally, it should be fine. And finally, we have the unstoppable, which means we are kind of perma unstoppable. Why? Because we have 5.3 seconds cooldown on the disintegrate, and we have 5 seconds unstoppable from here, and also teleports grants us unstoppable. And if we are panicking, we have flame shield as our last skill, which gives us immune. That is strictly better than unstoppable. I also didn't think about the skills, didn't talk about skills, so we use teleport, obvious, right? Every sorcerer's bread and butter. Mobility skill is beautiful. We have ice armor, gives us increased mana regen. We also have a lot of resource generation from Shroud of False Death, and also our willpower, right? And also axial conduit. That's how we can regenerate all this 200 something mana that quickly. Ice blades for more attack speed and for vulnerable, right? Flame shield is the panic button. We are immune, and it has a decent cooldown thanks to all this cooldown reduction thingy we have, but you shouldn't be using it too much. We have the Hydra, classic, and during combat this goes upwards of like 5 million, by the way. That tooltip damage from 95,000. There are a lot of bonuses that trigger, and we have Inferno, and Inferno. So don't let the tooltip fool you. The damage that Inferno does is nothing compared to the Hydra. Inferno is there to boost Hydra's damage by 50% and to help us with the vulnerable. And our enchantments here, our enchantments are, as I told you, familiar, right? 33% chance of summoning familiar. So this one does help, right? This one also does help. These are both conjurations. So Ice Blades and Hydra each have a 33% chance of summoning a familiar. We have the teleport enchantment, converts our evade into a teleport. That doesn't make us unstoppable. And finally, I have to talk about the mercenaries. I think we have Subo. The tracking does help, and we deal multiplicative 25% increased crit damage. Thanks to all the passives, we have 100% or something close crit chance on our Hydras. So this is 25% damage up for us. The tracking that comes from Subo is pretty nice. Yeah, and yeah. For the reinforcement, we used Rahir with Bastion, and we use it on the condition that we get injured. So our health drops to 35% or so. Rahir will jump in and do this, and as you can see, pretty nice, right? 95% of the damage is being taken by Rahir, and also gives you unstoppable to do it with what you will. Generally, this will get you out of all the area situations. I have died only once, and I still didn't comprehend it. I was doing greater at 90, I think, and boom, I died, right? I think I took some explosions or something. Other than that, the character is reasonably tanky. My life might be a little bit too high. You can aim for like 8k or so. Maybe I should unspec from some of the 2% life nodes that I have over there. But yeah, I mean, that's about it for the build. It's pretty good. And if you can go for the stuff that I have told you, it can force like 110s. I mean, you get the great graphics on the right things and maybe better unique powers, even though mine are pretty good. You can still get more damage out of these and also do the master workings right. Then you would be able to go at like 110s or so. And 110s are where most classes can't even go, right? Rogues cannot do it, right? Necromancers can, I think, barely do it. Somewhere about that. So this season, most classes are getting capped at 105s and 110s. Sorcerers can go a little bit above, and Spiritborn can go above 130 actually. And I think they haven't stopped yet. I think 135 or so is a possibility. We'll see. So that's about it for the build, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I will try to answer to the best of my ability. And I will also include the max roll guide where you can take a look at the skills, the paragon nodes, etc. Right? And I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.